Most American gardeners walk into the garden center in July, see a wall of seed packets on sale, and start filling their cart without checking one thing first: your zone. That single oversight is why so many July gardens end in disappointment instead of harvest. Some crops that work beautifully in May become a waste of money, water, and garden space once July soil temperatures take over. Crop number 3 on this list is one gardeners reach for constantly in July because it is everywhere at nurseries right now. It is also one of the most common July planting mistakes in the entire country. Drop your country, state, and your USDA zone in the comments. Your zone determines whether some of these crops are a mistake for you specifically, or whether they are still fine where you garden. Let's get into it. Crop 1. Lettuce. Lettuce is a cool season crop, and July soil across most of the United States runs far too warm for it. Lettuce seed struggles to germinate once soil temperatures climb past 80 degrees, and the plant itself bolts and turns bitter in sustained summer heat before it ever forms a usable head. Gardeners in zones 6 through 9 who direct sell lettuce in July are usually disappointed within 2 weeks. Seeds either fail to sprout at all, or seedlings come up weak and bolt to seed almost immediately, skipping the leafy stage entirely. The plant puts all its energy into a flower stalk, instead of the leaves you actually wanted to eat. A packet of lettuce seed costs $3 to $4. That is not the real cost. The real cost is the bed space, the water, and the weeks you lose waiting on a crop that was never going to perform, when that same space could have grown something suited to the season. Even gardeners who try to outsmart the heat with shade cloth often find the soil itself is the real problem. Air temperature can be managed with a simple cover, but the top layer of soil, where lettuce seeds actually sit, often stays too warm for reliable germination and encourages bolting once the plants emerge. Zones 3 through 5 with cooler summer nights can sometimes get away with a shaded July sowing for a fall crop. Zones 6 through 11, hold off. Wait until late August or early September when soil temperatures drop back into lettuce's comfort range. Crop 2, spinach. Spinach behaves the same way lettuce does, only worse. It is one of the most heat-sensitive vegetables grown in American gardens, and July is its least forgiving month almost everywhere. Spinach seeds sown into warm July soil frequently fails to germinate at all. The seed itself senses high soil temperature and goes into a kind of forced dormancy as a survival mechanism. Gardeners who do get germination usually watch the plant bolt to seed within days of forming its first true leaves. Some gardeners try refrigerating spinach seed for a week before sowing, hoping to trick it into thinking winter has already passed. It helps a little, but it does not change the fact that the soil itself is still too warm for the plant to thrive once it is in the ground. A trick at the seed stage cannot fix a problem that continues for the next 6 weeks of growth. If you have lost a spinach planting in past Julys and assumed it was something you did wrong, it likely was not. The crop and the month are simply mismatched. Zones 4 through 6 can occasionally succeed with a shaded, well-watered July sowing timed for early fall harvest, but it requires consistent attention. Zones 7 through 11 skip it entirely in July. Save your seed packet for late summer instead. Subscribe if this is saving you a planting mistake you are about to make. I cover timing details like this every single week. Crop 3, broccoli transplants. This is the crop I mentioned at the start, and it is the one that costs gardeners the most money every July. Garden centers stock broccoli transplants heavily in early summer because spring-started seedlings need to move out of the greenhouse. That does not mean July is the right time to plant them in most of the country. Broccoli forms its head properly only when daytime temperatures stay consistently below 75 degrees during head formation. Set transplants out into July heat across zones 6 through 9, and the plant frequently bolts straight to a small, loose, bitter head, a problem growers call buttoning. The plant senses heat stress and rushes to flower instead of forming the tight head you are growing it for. What makes this mistake so common is that the plant looks completely healthy for the first few weeks. The leaves are green, the stem is sturdy, and everything appears to be on track. The disappointment does not show up until 8 or 9 weeks in, when the gardener finally checks the center of the plant and finds a small, premature head instead of the full one they were expecting. A 4-pack of broccoli transplants runs $6 to $8. Multiply that across a typical backyard planting of 12 plants, and a gardener can lose $30 or more on a crop that was destined to button before it ever had a chance, on top of the water and bed space spent on a result nobody wanted to eat. Zones 3 through 5 with cooler summer climates can sometimes succeed, with July transplants timed for fall harvest. Zones 6 through 11. Hold your broccoli transplants until August, when you can time head formation to land in the cooler weeks of October. If you have ever pulled up a broccoli plant wondering why the head looked nothing like the picture on the plant tag, hit subscribe. This channel exists to catch these mistakes before they cost you a season. Crop 4. Carrots, in heavy or compacted soil. Here is a story that plays out in backyards across the country every July. A gardener plants a row of carrots, waters faithfully, watches healthy green tops grow tall and full, and feels confident a great harvest is coming. Then harvest day arrives, and underneath all that healthy foliage sits a row of stubby, forked, twisted little roots that look nothing like the carrots in the seed catalog. The tops told one story. The soil told another. Carrots are not wrong for July everywhere, but they are wrong for July in the wrong soil, and that mismatch is exactly what produced that gardener's disappointing harvest. Carrot roots need loose, well-draining soil to elongate properly. July heat bakes heavier clay and compacted soils into a dense, dry mass that carrot roots cannot push through, even while the leaves above ground have no trouble at all. This is also where mulch becomes important and gets overlooked. A bare carrot bed in July heat dries and hardens at the surface within days, even if you water regularly underneath. A simple layer of straw mulch over the row keeps the top inch of soil soft enough for tiny carrot seedlings to push through, which is often the real difference between a clean stand and a patchy one. If your soil is heavy clay or compacted from foot traffic, July is the wrong month to direct sow carrots into it without amendment. Work in compost and loosen the bed at least 8 inches deep before sowing, or wait for a season when your soil naturally holds more moisture and stays looser. Zones 3 through 6 with naturally loamy soil can succeed with July carrot sowings for a fall harvest. Zones 7 through 11, July heat plus heavy soil is a near guarantee of poor roots. Amend deeply first, or wait. Type your zone again in the comments if you have ever pulled up a twisted carrot and had no idea why. Crop 5. Potatoes, planted from scratch. Potatoes need roughly 90 to 110 days from planting to harvest for most full-season varieties, and they need cool soil to initiate tuber formation. Plant seed potatoes in July across most of zones 5 through 9, and you are racing a clock that frost will win. Here is the part most gardeners miss. Tuber formation slows dramatically and may stop altogether once soil temperatures stay above about 80 degrees, regardless of how healthy the foliage above ground looks. A gardener can have a lush green potato plant in August and dig up nothing but a handful of marble-sized tubers in October, because the soil was too warm during the exact window when the plant needed to be setting its crop. It is worth noting this is different from disease, even though the symptoms can look similar to a gardener checking the bed for the first time in months. A small harvest from heat-stressed soil is not a sign of blight or pest damage. It is simply timing, and timing is the one thing a seed potato cannot make up for once the season has already worked against it. A bag of seed potatoes runs $8 to $12 and ties up garden space for over 3 months. Planting that bag in July across most of the country risks losing that investment entirely to a frost that arrives before the tubers ever size up. Zones 8 through 11, with longer falls and milder winters, can plant a July or August potato crop successfully for a winter harvest. Zones 3 through 7, July is too late for a first planting. Wait for next spring. Or focus this season's potato bed on a quicker maturing crop instead. If you have made it this far, go ahead and subscribe now. There is more like this coming every week, and you will not want to miss it. 5 vegetables, all commonly planted in July. All a mistake for a large share of American gardeners. Lettuce bolts and fails to germinate in warm soil. Spinach goes dormant or bolts almost immediately. Broccoli transplants button instead of heading properly. Carrots fork and twist in heavy baked soil. Potatoes run out of season before tubers ever size up. Check this list against your zone and your soil before you spend another $1 at the garden center this week. The crops themselves are not the problem. The timing is. While you are sorting out timing mistakes, this is also exactly the kind of season when pests and disease quietly take hold of whatever you do have growing. If you want the full breakdown of how to spot and stop the most common garden problems before they spread, the Plantoria Gardening Guide on Natural Pest and Disease Control walks through it without a single harsh chemical. Link is in the description. Which of these have caught you off guard in a past July? Tell me in the comments, along with your zone. The more zone information this community shares, the more useful this gets for every gardener watching. And if you want the flip side of this list, the crops you'll seriously regret not planting this July, I broke that down step by step in another video. Click over and I'll see you there. This is Plantoria Gardening. Traditional techniques, real results, no hype. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.